Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Walker. Today's topic is once again, we are multiplying, how to multiply 2 by 2 digit problems using area models. And by 2 by 2 digit, what we mean are problems like this. Notice on top, 37 is a 2-digit number. And then on the bottom, 24 is also a 2-digit. So that's what we mean when we say a 2 times 2-digit problems. And area models we'll get into right away. By the end of this video, you will be able to solve problems like these, again, using an area model strategy. 37 times 24. So usually an area model will have like a rectangle, something like that. And then we would go 37 would be in expanded form, 30, which is our 3/10 plus 7 ones. I'm going to expand this a little bit. And then notice that our 24 would be 2/10 plus, so I'm kind of coming down on this axis. And of course, we would be multiplying. So this box here is what we refer to as an area model for this problem. So then we would multiply, and any order would be fine. So for example, you would kind of come across, and this would be 20 times 30. You remember in a previous lesson, we said you can just multiply what I call your solids. 3 times 2 would be 6, and then you count your zeros, 1, 2, and then write your zeros. So that would really be 600. 20 multiplied by 7, well, we know that 7 times 2 is 14, and in this case we would have 1 0, so 140. If I come down to here, the 4, it would be 4 multiplied by 30. Well, I can just go 4 times 3 is 12, and then count your zeros. In this case, I have 1, and write your zeros for 1. And finally, 4 multiplied by 7 would be 28. So we have our 4 products, and now the next step would be to add, which I'm just going to show down here. I'm going to scooch this up a little bit. So we have 600 plus 140 plus 120 plus 28 in the ones column, 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 8. 8. I could use a pin dot strategy here. 0, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 again in the tens. 6, 7, 8. So our product would be 888. Now, like in a previous video, I wanted to show you that you can also do this in a traditional method. 7 times 4 is 28. 4 times 3 would be 12. That we would have to add that to the regroup number. So 12 plus 2 would be 14. Now that takes care of our 4. Now we go over to the 2, but remember that this is 2 tens. In fact, I'm even just going to put just a little tiny 0 in there. Just remember that that's 20. Now you remember from a previous lesson that when we multiply a 10, which in this case 20 is a 10, that you have to add a 0. We multiply, count your zeros right. In this case, I can take a shortcut and just put a 0 down here, and I'll explain that a little bit later. So 2 times 7 is 14. And then I'm going to regroup the 1 up here. In this case, I'm going to cross that out. 2 times 3 is 6. Well, 6 plus 1 is 7. And then I would add, and then add 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus 4 is also 8. And 1 plus 7 would be 8. And notice that my 888, which is my product, is equal to that. So again, notice that we're using an an area model strategy where we're multiplying all the place values and adding them. The traditional method does the same thing. It just organizes the work a little bit differently. Some key ideas when you're using area models to multiply 2 by 2 digit. Remember that area models use rows and columns. Remember that rows run from left to right. Columns run up and down. So here's an example of an area model representing a multiplication problem. If I were to count my columns, how many are each column? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in each row, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, looks like 8. And so if I were to multiply those two, 8 times 4 would equal 32. In this type of problem, you could count the boxes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. And they call this square units. Now, in area models for like we're doing today, we're not counting the grids, but we're using the idea of multiplying and using that to visualize and then write your answers. Keep that in mind, but that's what an area model is. Please remember that expanded form, even though it's not in the title, you have to use your knowledge of expanded form to use an area model for 2 digits. For example, 64 times 27. Remember that 6 would be 6 tenths, which would be 60. So 64 is really 60 plus our 4 ones. So that's what we mean by that. 27 would be 2 tens, which would be 2 tens, of course, is 20 plus the 7. So remember, when we're using area models, we are using your knowledge of expanded form. Okay, let's solve some. And I'm going to try to solve them using a traditional method as well. 82 times 56. So I'm going to draw my model. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm drawing 4 because notice how I have the number 4, total of 4 digits. I have 2 digits on top, 2 on the bottom, so that's what I mean by that. Okay, so on top here, I'm going to have my expanded form for 82. So 8 tens, which is 80, plus 2 ones. The bottom number is 5 tens, but that's really 50, plus the 6 ones. And remember that we are multiplying. Okay, so you can start in anywhere. In fact, why don't we start down here this time? So that would be 6 multiplied by 2 is 12. 6 times 80, but remember we can go 6 times 8 is 48. Count your zeros, which is 1, and write your zeros, 1. 50 times 2, well, 5 times 2 is 10. Count your zeros, there's 1, and write your zeros is 1. And finally, 50 times 80, but I can just go 5 times 8 would be 40, and then count your zeros, 1, 2, and write your zeros, 1, 2 for 4,000. Now we add. So 4,000 plus 100 plus 480 plus 12. In the ones column, all those zeros plus 2 would be 2. In the tens, 8 plus 1 would be 8, 9. Would be 4, 5 in the hundreds. And finally 4. So our product would be 4,592. Okay. Now, in traditional method, I am going to just show you your multiplication over here, and I apologize for any delay in time, but if you have the time, it's worth watching. We start with our ones. Remember, this is our ones place value, 2 times 6, which I'm just going to show over here, and that would equal 12. Remember, young people, if you're having trouble with your multiplication, I'd recommend that you use a multiplication table to help you through that. Yes, you should memorize your facts, but this is helpful for keeping you moving on this kind of problem. Now, 12 is a 2-digit, so I'm going to regroup. Now, remember, I'm multiplying my top, so I'm going to go the 6 times the 8. So 6 times 8, if I show that over here, would be 48. In other words, 48 tens, right? But I have 1 10 regrouped, so I'm going to have to write 48 plus 1. Well, 48 plus 1 would be 49. Now, I'm done with this. Because I have this other number in the tens, I'm going to cross that out so I don't get confused. Now, we're going to move over. Now, remember, this 5 really, remember, is 50. So 50, or 5 times 2, I'm going to write this as 50 times 2. But remember that it's going to be 5 times 2 would be 100. Now, there's a little trick so that we don't have to get confused with this and keep writing a 0. I can just put a 0 right there. And so, in other words, 5 times 2 is 10. Remember, 10 is a 2-digit. So I'm going to regroup the 1 up here above the 8. Now, 5 times 8 is equal to 40. Remember, technically it's 50 times 8, but I wanted to show that to you, but that's why we put the 0 in. I could have done a better job explaining that. I'll do it on the next page. So 5 times 8 is 40, but we have to add the regroup number, which would be 41. And now we add 2 plus 0 in the ones is 2. 9 plus 0 in the tens is 9. 4 plus 1 in the hundreds is 5. And 4. And notice that our answer of 4,592 is identical to the answer that we got with the area model. The difference is, as you can see, it takes up a lot less space. But again, it's a matter of being able to organize that. Let's try another one. Using our area model. Remember, I could have done a better job today with this, and I apologize for that. The first thing we do is that when we use area models is we draw our model. The second is that we multiply our each place value. And then the third step is that we would to add our product. So first thing I'm going to do to solve this problem is I'm going to draw my model. And I'm going to kind of divide that into 4. 20, what's this interesting, is 2 tens, which is 20, plus, notice here I have nothing. So I'm just going to write that as 0 ones. Now, 89 is 80 plus your 9 ones. Now we're going to multiply. Well, I'm just going to do the easy one first. 80 times 0 is 0. I like this one a lot. 9 times 0 is also 0. That's easy. 80 times 20. Remember, you can just go 8 times 2 is 16. Count your zeros. 1, 2. Write your zeros. 1, 2. And 9 times 20. Remember, you can just go 9 times 2. Well, that would be 18. And then count your zeros. 1 and write your zeros. So that takes care of the multiplying. Now we're going to add. In this case, we have only 2, which is great. So 1600 plus 180. In the ones, 0 plus 0 is 0. In the 10, 0 plus 8 is 8. 6 plus 1 in the hundreds would be 7. And finally, 1,000. So our product would be 1,780 using a traditional method of multiplication. I would start with my 1. So 0 times 9, of course, is 0. And then 9 times 2 is 18. Now I go to the tens, which is going to be 8 times 0. Remember, it's 8 tens. 8 times 0 is 0. But remember that because this is actually 8 tens, the rule is whenever you're multiplying by a 10, you have to add a 0. So there's a little trick. You just add the 0 automatically when you're doing the tens. So now we said that 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 2 is equal to 16. And so 8 times 2, there's nothing to regroup, so we would write this as 16. And now finally, we're going to add. That would be 0. 8 plus 0 is 8. In the hundreds, 1 plus 6 is 7. And then 1. Notice that the answer, 1,780, is exactly the same as the one that we got with the area model. And again, it's a little bit bumpy explaining this during this video. I'm sorry about that. This is from a state test from my state, and many times you can just go to your Department of Education website. This is a released item from a number of years ago, but this is an example of the kind of problem that you may have. Notice it says, what is the product of 84 and 76? Notice that it's not showing you, it's not saying to multiply, and it's not giving you the hint that this is multiplication. The only hint is the word product, and you know that the word product in math means that we multiply. So the product, we would just write our problem out, 84 times 76. If we use an area model, just a nice way to organize it. 84 is really 80 plus 4. 76 is 70 or 7 tens plus 6 ones. Now I multiply. 6 multiplied by 4 is 24. 6 times 80. Well, remember that 8 times 6 or 6 times 8 is 48. Count your zeros, 1, and write your zeros. 70 multiplied by 4. Well, I can go 7 times 4 would be 28. In this case, count your zeros, 1, and write your zeros, 1. And finally, 70 times 80, or in other words, 7 times 8, well, that's 56. And then count your zeros, 1, 2, and write your zeros, 1, 2. Now we add 5,600. I might have to write just a bit smaller here, plus 180, plus 480. All right, then we add. 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 4. Excuse me, in the tens, well, I know that 8 plus 2 is 10, and 8 more would be 18. I'm going to regroup my 1 to the hundreds. 6, if I use a pin dot strategy, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, I could say 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1, 5 would be 6. So our product would be 6,384. I think I see it, or C, right? And so our product would be 6,384. Okay, thanks everybody for hanging in there on this one. Again, just a matter of review what we were doing today is that we have been multiplying problems like this, which is referred to as 2 by 2 digit, and we used area models, but we also compared using a traditional method that I was taught when I was young. And the steps are: you draw your model, you multiply all your different place values, then you add to get your product. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next time.